Just have we have no
minutes.
minutes?
We don't.
Okay, well, then there's nothing on consent, I guess. We could open up for public comments for items not on the agenda. These would be comments that have to do with the planning, the purview of the planning commission, but not on today's agenda. So if there's anybody in the council chambers that would like to address the commission, you can do so now. If not, anybody on Zoom raising their hand?
I can go ahead and let people know how to make a public comment.
Thank you.
Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/Monterey, City of Monterey. It's also streamed on Comcast Channel 25. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the meeting, with a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. Since this meeting has already started, you'll find the agenda under the recent tab. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-990-8039. If prompted for a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions for using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it's their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that time limit. And there are 8 attendees that I see no hands raised online.
Okay, so we will move on to the first item of our public hearing agenda. That's item number 2, which is consider 113 Spray Avenue. It's a variance application, VA 220132, to increase the maximum allowed building height from 25 feet to 30 feet 4 inches on a portion of an existing 3-story single-family dwelling. The applicant is Alan Robinson. He's in the audience, and the owner is Stephen Meyer. The zone is R16D1. The zoning district is low density residential land use designation. This is exempt from CEQA. Article 18, section 15270A. And we have a staff report.
Yes, Principal Planner Fernanda Riveri is online and will be making the presentation.
Great.
Thank you, Chair and Kim. This is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. This item was first scheduled at the October 11th Planning Commission meeting, and then it was continued to October 25th, and then again continued to today's meeting. Staff's recommendation is to deny the variance application because it does not meet the required variance findings. The location of the requested variance is 113 Spray Avenue. It's located in the Del Monte Beach neighborhood. And the lot is on the north side of Spray Avenue. And the ocean is also on the north side. Some background, this property has 3 stories. And the lot from the front of the home from Spray Avenue, the home looks like it's 2 stories. However, the lot slopes down toward the west and rear, which is why in the rear, you can see the full 3 stories. The building the home has a existing gable roof. You can see it here. I highlighted it in orange. This is from the view from the rear, and the applicant is requesting to raise the roof so that it's flat and it aligns with the existing ridge. And this request is for an extra 5 feet 4 inches of height. So the red line here shows that 25-foot height from as measured from the grade below. And you can see that currently most of the gable roof is below that 25-foot line, for the exception of this west side of the gable that I'm pointing to here. However, the requested 5 feet 4 inches of extra height would put the building above that 25-foot height limit. So as you can see, the two gables would be raised to meet the existing ridge, but that would create this is the side of the dwelling where the variance is requested, the west side. And this is a 3D mock-up of that the architect presented. It's in your packet as Exhibit A, and he drew a plane showing what portion of the roof would be above that 25-foot height limit. So it's just that portion on the west side in the rear. The story poles and netting were installed for the hearing in October 11th, and they are still there. This just shows the proposal. The top 2x4 shows the ridge that the roof, the gables would be raised to meet that ridge. The eaves would go up to the out to the same length as the existing gable eaves. There are 3 findings that the Planning Commission is required to make in order to approve a variance. That because of special circumstances applicable to the subject property, such as size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, strict application of the requirements of this ordinance deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under the same zoning district. However, there are no special circumstances that apply just to this property. The lot size, topography, location, and surroundings are the same for all adjacent lots. This lot is 3,600 square feet, which is the same for the adjacent lots. And the topography is the same. It slopes down toward the west and north. The second finding is that granting the application will not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity of the site or to the public health, safety, or welfare. However, granting of the extra 5 feet 4 inches in height may be detrimental to property in the vicinity, as it may block or partially block someone's view of the ocean. And when residents buy a home or construct a home in this neighborhood, they expect that everyone will adhere to the same height. And so by granting this variance, those expectations would be erased. The third finding is that granting the application is consistent with the purposes of this ordinance and will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with limitations on other properties in the vicinity and in the same zoning district. So, as I mentioned, the circumstances that apply to this lot are not special, and every property in this neighborhood is required to meet the existing height limit of 25 feet. And by allowing homes to exceed this height limit, it creates issues with view sharing and could block or reduce ocean views for other properties. And so the only way that view sharing is achieved is if all properties follow the height limit in the zoning ordinance. Again, staff's recommendation is to deny the variance request because it does not meet the 3 required variance findings. I'm available for questions, and I haven't really had a chance to talk to the applicant, but Kim, do you know if he's there?
Yes. Al
Okay,
is
sorry.
Here, and if you could just close your presentation and then we
Yeah.
can see everybody and then we'll turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernanda. We'll start off with questions from commissioners. To Fernanda?
No.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any. No. Okay, so we can move on to Alan's presentation.
Okay, we'll just leave right there and I'll fix some things out of that. Oh. Oh, okay. All right. I won't be doing it too often. Just, okay. All right. Hello. Can the Plan Commission see the file listing there? We're going to be reviewing some of the documents, not all of them, of course.
Yes, on the screens.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, my name is Alan Robinson. I'm the applicant and the architect for this project. And I'm very happy that the wisdom in the municipal code gives us the opportunity to exercise our right to seek a variance. Variances are not uncommon in a certain regard, but we intend to offer a compelling presentation in the hope that the staff recommendation for denial would be reversed. First, let me start by saying the reasons for the design revision. Mr. Stephen Meyer has lived, he's been a resident of Monterey, graduated from Monterey High School. He's been here for a very long time. He used to be active in the community development by renaming North Fremont Street. He undergrounded the utilities in Del Monte Dunes and some other things. He was supportive of all that community development. So he's been active in the community. However, he bought this house in 1984 and he's a very private person. He now has a progressively debilitating physical condition, which has required we revise his home to be more barrier-free and be able to, maneuver around as he gets even older. But he loves the neighborhood. He wants to make this his final home, the home he intends to remain in till the end. And he's also loved by the neighbors. So this is just sort of the background that he is not someone from coming out of town and trying to do something that he feels is, that we wouldn't really put up with here. However, I wanted to dispel one of the thoughts was that by giving us this variance, it's going to start a landslide of everyone else wanting a variance for something like this. I would just say that I don't believe that's going to be the case at all, given the fact that it's taken us 2 years to do this design and that we've spent a lot of money, which is not your concern so much, but I believe we would like to kind of revisit the 3 conditions because first I'd ask, how many people have been by the site and seen the site physically? So I have 2 out of 1, 2, 3. 3. Oh, that's unfortunate because it'd be great if you could have seen it. We put a lot of effort into the netting and things there. You would have been able to see how innocuous this is really going to be in the neighborhood. However, on the second part of it, did you read our explanation letter and see the examples that we had in that letter? It's about a 9-page letter. Did you see the explanation letter? Was it in your staff report? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's sort of where I'd like to start the comparison between the city's interpretation of the conditions and our interpretation of the conditions. So if you don't mind, um, the first condition, I'd like to read it in total here. I'm fogging up here. Excuse me. I can take my mask off. Okay, thank you. All right. Out of the municipal code, the three findings are quite interesting in the way they were written. Well, let's start with the first one. I want to read it all to you because there's some really important parts that could be misinterpreted. That because of special circumstances or condition applicable to the subject property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, strict application of the requirements of this ordinance deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity or under identical zoning jurisdictions or classifications. Well, if you've all been residents of Monterey for a long time, I hope you would agree with me that Del Monte Dunes neighborhood is the most eclectic neighborhood in the city. It's been manipulated and maneuvered around so that you can find just about anything you want to in that neighborhood, including three-story buildings, buildings way over 25 feet, and all of that. In fact, when this house was first built, the height limitation was not 25 feet, it was 30 feet. And so that was interesting. So that's why you'll see why this house, what we're doing to it is actually more compatible with a neighborhood than reducing it to 25 feet. Now, the 25 feet may have come in later when they started opening up the new lots at the other side of the new parts. What on it? Over there where the lots of record finally started getting built in many years. But so we've undergone this continual sort of pushing down of the height limitation. Now, I can understand that. I'm surely sympathetic to view sharing completely. However, we were very careful to add the building, the additional height at the back of the building. If you went on the field trip and you drove by the house, you would not even see what we're doing to the roof back there. So as Fernanda said, by the way, Fernanda did a good job and we met and talked about this project together very cordially. And I appreciate all the work they've done. And I'm just saying that we have a difference of opinion on how this is interpreted. However, the massing that we added, if you want to call it massing, is at the back. It was a simple idea of just opening the roof ridge and just flipping it up to get more light and air and to give us a more flexible floor plan. If you also looked at the floor plan, the north light would be just perfect, get more light into the space for him as well. So I guess my examples are the many houses in my exhibit explanation letter. There's so many houses in there that are over 25, even 35 feet, 3 stories, all of them. And I cited several examples in my explanation letter. I could have taken a lot more time, shown a lot more buildings like that. So I'm suggesting to you that what we're offering to do to this house is compatible with the neighborhood. Now, in addition to that, under the part about topography, well, we're actually suffering because of the topography. Now, I'd like to show the little movie if you don't mind. So I have a little movie that kind of shows in context a little better than the diagram there, but that would be the Concept 6 MP4 player. Up there you go. Okay. It should unload and you'll be able to see it. Now, if you spent any time in the neighborhood, you would have noticed there is a conglomeration of retaining walls and things that are, kind of manipulated to do it. Now, this house has been built a retaining wall on the on the east side so that the house actually sits down in that side. So you can see right there. Stop that. Can we stop it right there? Yep. There, the stop. Good. Exactly the reason that we're over 25 feet is the topography. I mean, the site slope of the dunes comes down from the southeast corner to the northwest corner. And as you can, I don't know if you can really see, but if you look at the rear of the site and you
We
look,
can't see the video, or at least I can't see it.
oh, you can't see it? It's not moving right now. It's just a picture.
Oh, I can't even see the
Oh,
picture.
you can't see the picture? Okay. All right. Okay. And media player, that's it. Mhm. Okay. How about that, Fernanda? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay, great. What I want to demonstrate from this model is that if you look at the eastern border, which is on the other side of the house from what we're looking at, and you look at the retaining walls that are in place right now, we really don't know what the natural grade of that site is because those sites all around there have put retaining walls and all sorts of things. And that it's really hard to find out what the actual natural grade was. And in addition to that, this particular part of the house is unseen by any community person. I mean, there's no one ever seeing that part of the house. So what we're doing here is just sort of saying that what we're doing is no different than many, many, many of the other houses in this neighborhood at the time when this was done. So in actuality, our 25-foot height limitation, we exceed that a little bit now. So we're really only talking about 2 feet 9 when we lift the eaves up from the existing, where we're already over, our roof slope is higher than 25 feet on the existing house. So we're just asking to raise that eave up 2 feet 9 inches. I think Fernanda can vouch for that. So we can continue that if you wanted to do that. So I'm just saying it's a hodgepodge of retaining walls all over the place, and no one really knows what the actual grade was, but it's been chopped up over the decades. The front and the streetscape is, we can stop right there, is compatible with the streetscape that it is now. The streetscape is not being altered at all. When you drive by the street, you won't see anything. And I think we have a good photograph of that in the findings where we're taking a picture. Actually, you already used a picture in the presentation, Fernando, when you showed the view from the house across the street. That would be on page 6 of 7. This picture, I think you can find that. Anyway, what we're doing here is showing a photograph. Scroll down to page 6, 7. While she's getting that up, I'd like to mention that we've spent a lot of time in the neighborhood, canvassing the neighborhood with the neighbors. And there it is right there. That picture is taken from the second story of the building across the street. And if you look at the streetscape, you can see that 113 Spray in the middle of the picture is actually lower than either one of its neighbors. So this is an important picture also to show that even at this second story level, there are no views of the ocean that are perceptible from that view that we're blocking. So I thought this is important to start with that, to say that if you were to drive down the street, you'd notice little, if any, change to the streetscape. And we did that purposefully. So I hope you'll see what we're talking about by that. So let's go on to the idea then of the second condition, is that granting the application is consistent with the purposes of this ordinance and will not constitute a grant or special privilege inconsistent with the limitations of other properties in the city and the same zoning district. So I believe this is part of the conversation in the staff report where they're talking about, oh, I'm sorry, this is number 2, is the granting of this application will not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity of the development site or the public health, safety, or general welfare. Well, the mention of views is not in any of that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but views are not guaranteed by the municipal code. Can I ask staff if that's true? Views are not guaranteed in the municipal code. Okay, all right. Fine. Okay, fine. Thank you.
No, but they're favored.
I'm sorry.
They're favored.
Their view shed is sharing. So out of the 6 letters of support, we had 2 letters from a neighbor who says we're blocking her view. So I want to go very much into detail with that. Can I flip to the pictures then on the screen? This is important. So I'm going to show you, these are the photographs that the owner of 120 has presented as we are blocking her views. Let's stop it. Okay, Fernanda, can you see the pictures?
I
Fernanda,
can't, not right now.
you cannot. Okay. Well, they're in the staff report. They're the pictures from the 120 spray site. How about now?
Yes, I can
Okay,
now.
great. All right, well, let's take a look at this. Is an example presented by the owner that we're blocking her views. If you look at where our netting is, we are not blocking her views. We are not blocking her views, and because our roof does not come up that high. It's below that. But I'd also like to point as, look at how close that house looks to her window. Okay, just take a look at that and just remember that when I show some other pictures. All right, let's go to the next picture. This is the same picture through her house. She has no views of the ocean in this picture. Let's go to the next one. At night, no. The next one, no again. Now I'd like to go to some other pictures. Now this next picture, Fernanda, can you see this? There it is. Can you see this?
No,
Okay. Well, again, this is the picture showing where we are, and that gap between the chimneys is where she's saying we're blocking the views. This is taken from the second story. We're not blocking views of the ocean in this case. But let's go on to the next picture if we can. We were tried very hard not to block the views of our neighbors. And it's a good example. This is our neighbor to the east, where she has a big sliding glass door there. Our roof eaves are lower than her balcony, and we're not blocking her views at all. She wrote a very supportive letter about why we did this and how, and she was very pleased, very supporting. So let's go to the next one. So when you look down the eaves, and I'm standing on the roof, which is a vantage that hardly anyone would get, but we're showing that the eaves we're doing on our new roof is on the same alignment as the eaves as the existing house. So we're not blocking any views of the ocean with this either, if you're looking at that. Let's go to the next slide. This is on the west side. Again, we are not blocking any views of the ocean from anyone around there. So let's go back again, one more shot there. Let's go, I think forward, please. Yeah, let's go next. Okay, there's kind of a view of the entire roof. We're not blocking any views. The woman who is complaining about the views actually came out of her house and screamed at us. And that's why I didn't really think that was right or fair, because she's taking a telephoto view out of her house. Let's go on to some other slides there. And let's see if I have one other one to show what I'm talking about. Let's go. What is that? We're looking at, so what I'm just saying is we are not blocking her views. She took a telephoto lens, those images, If we we're going to use telephoto lens, Mr. Meyer would have a view of Hawaii if he wanted to. So I'm saying that's not fair.
Why don't you address your comments? to-
My comment is this, that we had 6 positive letters, 1 negative letter for the very fact we're blocking views. We are not blocking views. I'm trying to demonstrate that to you. We are not blocking the views. That's what I make very clear. So that eliminates the detrimental impact we're having to the neighborhood on condition number 2. We're not having any detrimental impact to the neighborhood, supported by 6 people immediately around them who say they really like the project. So let's go to the third one, the third condition, which is states that granting the application is consistent with the purpose of this ordinance and will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitation on other properties in the vicinity. Other properties in the vicinity, we are very compatible with that. I mean, again, I've demonstrated in many photographs in the explanation letter that our project is compatible with the neighborhood. So I'm just hoping that we will agree that Del Monte neighborhood, Dunes neighborhood is very eclectic, all kinds of heights, limitations, everything. So we're really granting a special privilege. So because we're consistent with other properties in the vicinity, just like the condition asked to be. So in conclusion, again, Del Monte Dunes is the most eclectic gathering of residential designs. Our project is compatible with the neighborhood. And we put any possible change from the streetscape toward the back of the house. The houses are close together. People will not notice that little bit of rise back there. We are not setting a new trend for variance remodeling. Our design is thoughtful with respect to viewshed preservation. We're not blocking views. We canvassed and explained our design intention with about 15 homes at a special meeting, and all were supportive, except one woman across the street who we could never convince that she was angry. I believe we demonstrated sincerity to meet all 3 conditions. And I'd like to talk about architecture. I've been an architect for 54 years. What I'm doing to this house, I think, is elegant. It really brings in all the concepts of design that I've been working with over the years. And sometimes architects are artists. I mean, when I first went to architecture school, they said architecture is art. Well, artists oftentimes bend the rules a little bit to get a nice outcome. I guess we'd still be drawing charcoal on cave walls. I'm just saying that, as an artist and an architect, sometimes you have to look at the best for the architecture. That little 2'9" extension of the eave will be not noticeable in the community at all. So my final closing is, I hope that you'll please approve our request for variance to a very deserving citizen, lifetime resident of the city of Monterey. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Alan. Are there questions from commissioners for Alan?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mike, go ahead.
When you look at that view of the roof line from the street, you're suggesting that your project would be at the back side of the house, or the flat roof, not the forward portion of the house?
That is correct. It's only in the back 1/3 of the house. The plan,
And,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'm just saying, we did that purposely. We didn't want to grow the streetscape at all. So we raised the ceiling only in the living. We combined the living and dining room to make an open space barrier free. And we raised the roof only in that area.
Okay, the highest portion of that roof, you say, is 30 feet?
Well, the corner that we're asking for the variance, we are 30 feet 4 inches to be exact. But if you look at the percentage of the house that's way under 25 feet in the diagrams that I've given, most of the house is way under 25 feet, except for that back corner due to the topography of the slopes and the sand dunes there. So that's the unfortunate part about that. And again, it's people in Deadline Dunes have done all sorts of retaining walls and whatnot. So this is where we are with it. We're not destroying the streetscape. The additional height is only one corner of the house in the back of the lot.
Well, that's, but I find is part of the misunderstanding, because if the roof line is level currently, then it's not hanging up an extra 5 feet.
Can we open the diagram again, Kim, of the diagram that I'm showing that has the 25-foot limitations that we're showing? That's the concept, that one right there. Yeah, I think that shows it. Okay, thank you. Well, technology. Really raining out there. I think it's really important to notice we're taking a very small corner of a house that is largely under 25 feet. Largely under 25 feet.
Except in the center, for the center ridge line.
Well, the ridge line is under 25 feet. It is 25 feet under. You see in the diagram, once again, once we pull this up, you'll see that where this is all happening at the back of the lot. The part of the variance we're requesting to bring it up to a level of the other part of the house. It's not loading. Well, then we can go to the diagram that she had that showed the yellow sheeting of the plane, which was on the staff presentation if you need to.
I have a question.
Or you could go, yeah. Fernanda, can you reload the diagram that shows the 25-foot plane through the house? I think we'll stop. Well, okay. Now, you see that the part we're talking about is less than half of the house in the one corner that we've been talking about, the northwest corner, which is this view. You can see the 25-foot height limitations on the dimension, and then 5 feet forward to get to the height of the new ridge, new eave. But if you look at the yellow, which is the height where 25 feet can be anywhere else on the site, we're far under 25 feet. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think a part of the issue here is we keep talking 25 feet, but if you look at it from the forward portion of that yellow illustration,
Right.
that shows 25 feet as lower than the back 25 feet.
Not exactly. I don't understand what you're saying. That if you follow the slope of the sidewalk, that 25 feet is, well, can you?
That 25 feet is at the base of the top windows.
Yes, I know, but that was also the height of the existing sloped roof. You see the slope roof in the front, the gabled roof that if you.
Exactly. What I'm trying to do is clarify that I think we're got mixed issues here, because 25 feet on, if that was on flat land, would be different than because it has a slope going up, because it shows the 25 feet on the back 20 portion of that 25 feet as just below the deck. So that's not the same as the front of the house. That was what was confusing me, is that 25 feet is not the same.
So yes, Commissioner Brassfield, I think what you're trying to describe is that because of the slope of the property or the topography, the building at the front, you can see that 25-foot measurement, and there's some additional area there. But as it slopes backwards towards the back of the lot, the measurement in that back right corner, I think, is 30 feet, 4 inches. So there's about a 5-foot difference from the front of the lot to the back right corner.
Yeah, Kim, before you go, before you leave, I want to ask you a question. Under the previous zoning, all right, would this have been allowable without a variance?
Almost. It would be just about 4 inches.
The other ones that are above it were done at a time when that was a permissible height.
Yes, so 30 feet, I believe, and Fernanda, please confirm, we looked that up in the zoning code.
Okay.
The height used to be 30 feet way back when.
Yeah.
And
It
now-
changed in my entire career here, so I've been here since 1997, has been 25 feet.
You answered my question. Thank
In 1964, the height limit was 30 feet and 2.5 stories.
you. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. That answered my question as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question, sir. Is there anything else from anyone else?
Any other questions from commissioners?
No.
No, thank you, Alan. I appreciate your.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll open it up to public comment. Erica, we go back and forth between people online and people in the chamber.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and remind people how they can
Okay.
participate. Once again, to join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-990-8039. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. I see 9 attendees. There's no one with their hand raised on Zoom.
Anyone from the audience? Okay, then I'll close the public. And we'll bring it back to commissioners for discussion. Who's burning to share their opinion first?
Oh, I'll be happy to.
There you go. Commissioner Milich.
I sympathize with the applicant. However, I have to make a finding. The variance, it's just not there. So I would vote to deny it. I don't want it, but I think if I have to follow the law, I would have to vote to deny it.
Commissioner Dawson, did you raise your hand there?
I sure did.
Okay, it's
My comment is along with somebody who wrote in a letter saying that allowing this would be one step on a slippery slope. And I think that's what I would worry about, because we've seen bitter arguments between neighbors in Del Monte Beach. And I'd rather not be somebody who's going to cause one of those bitter arguments.
Good point.
Mike.
The very first planning commission meeting I attended almost 50 years ago, it was a contested, one of the issues was a contested view at Del Monte Beach. And the old expression of whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, I think you can change the water to views, and we would have a similar situation. I agree with Mike that this is a slippery slope, although I can tell you I can empathize with the intent here of the applicant, but I just don't want to see this as a first step in the next fight. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. A quick comment, in addition to the supportive letters that were included in the applicant's package, there were also letters that were submitted publicly to the City Planning Commission for this meeting tonight. And of the 10 letters, 100% were against approving the variance for various reasons. The most compelling letter to me came on the first time that this application came, and we didn't hear it. And I don't see that letter in the package tonight. And I didn't say these words, I'm just repeating them. And the writer of the letter said, "Get a grip, rules is rules." And so I'm going with that thought, that because Del Monte Beach is not only a unique residential opportunity in the city of Monterey, but it seems to spawn these arguments between neighbors over remodeling and construction. And it really, every single one seems to come to the ARC or to the Planning Commission. And this is very similar to one that we heard maybe 5 years ago. So I am going to support the city's decision to deny the variance.
Okay, I feel maybe just a little bit differently about this. I do think there is a slippery slope. But I think this proposal is modest and you can make the distinction. But I will say this, and this is where I end up, is we've been out there in that neighborhood many times with many projects before, standing in the street, talking to the neighbors and whatnot. And I do feel that we need to be consistent year in and year out in how we apply the rules to that neighborhood out there, because there's such a heightened sense of concern anytime an application comes through. I'm just so torn on this because I do think that is a modest, what the applicant is asking for is modest. Is there further discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to deny the applicant the appeal.
Okay, there's a motion to deny. Can I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion from commissioners? Erica, can we have a roll call on this vote?
Sure. Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milich,
Yes,
Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes,
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries with a vote of 5. The decision is appealable to the City Council within 10 days. We have applications online or in our planning office.
Okay, moving on to item number 3. This is to consider recommending a resolution to the city council establishing objective design standards for the downtown and lighthouse specific plans and amending the plans to clarify visitor accommodation facility district requirements, adding massage establishment requirements and definition, adding fence and wall requirements, adding what's marker space, use of classification and definition, clarifying residential minor and major first floor 4 units or more, requirements, adding new subdivision minimum lot size and width requirements, updating streetscape lighting requirements, and amending the utility major definition to include water facilities. Wow, there's a lot here.
There is.
Okay, well, let's
Yeah.
get started with the staff report.
And Principal Planner Fernando Rivera is going to make the presentation. I just have a brief introduction and just a couple words. State legislation continues to be adopted to streamline housing development. And you're going to hear over and over again this word objective design standards. I think you're very familiar with it at the commission level because of accessory dwelling units. And this is another scenario where we are coming predominantly into compliance with state law. After we finish this project, actually simultaneously, Fernanda is also working on our SB9 objective design standards. If an application was submitted today in the Lighthouse area and would meet the criteria that Fernanda is going to go over in the state law, the city would not have any objective design standards and they could obtain a building permit. So this is, I guess I'd like to describe it as sort of a penalty for the city not constructing its regional housing needs allocation over the years, predominantly, as we know, because of water. But the state is adopting laws that are taking away authorities from cities that have not met those requirements. So with that, I'll turn it over to Fernanda. And I just wanted to emphasize, we are trying to comply with the state mandate. We don't currently have objective design standards like in the downtown area. So whatever amount of time it takes us to approve these, if we get a project in the meantime, it will go straight to the building department. Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Kim. So this staff report is presenting to you the objective design standards for downtown and lighthouse specific plans, as well as the other amendments that Chair Fletcher read. I don't know if you remember, but in December of 2021, Grant and I presented on SB 35 and SB 9, which are the new housing laws to streamline housing development. And SB 35 is the one that you could build a multifamily housing project, and it needs to meet the criteria outlined in the state law. But right now, since we don't have any objective design standards, that multifamily housing project could just obtain a building permit. We do have some objective standards currently in our specific plans, and those are the height limitations, setbacks, because those are inherently objective. But I'll get into it. As Kim mentioned, we are required, every jurisdiction in California is required to meet the regional housing needs allocation. The city of Monterey, along with 38 other jurisdictions, sorry, only 38 jurisdictions met their allocation. And so the vast majority did not, including the city of Monterey. And so this Senate Bill 35 applies to the city of Monterey and the other jurisdictions that did not meet their allocation goals. So the need for objective design standards is very clear. These projects that qualify for streamlined review, like Kim said, they could just get a building permit without needing to meet any of our design guidelines. So only development and design standards that are objective can be applied to these projects, which is why we're presenting this to you today. We've converted most of our design guidelines in the specific plans to design standards. And these standards would enable the city to retain some control of the building design and compatibility with the neighborhood. Objective standards are those that involve no personal or subjective judgment by a public official and are uniformly verifiable by reference to an external and uniform benchmark or criterion available and knowable by both the development applicant or proponent and the public official prior to submittal. So this is a very detailed way of saying that an objective standard is one that is very prescriptive and very numerical and uses words that are understandable by everyone. And so these are some of the SB 35 ministerial review criteria, but not all of them. In order for a project to be eligible for streamlined review, it needs to have at least 2 multifamily units. And for mixed-use projects, at least 2/3 of the proposed development square footage must be residential. And it needs to have a minimum affordable unit count. So the state law says that projects that contain more than 10 units must reserve at least 10% as affordable. However, our inclusionary housing ordinance is more restrictive. Ours said that if the project contains 6 or more units, then 20% of those need to be affordable. And because that is considered an objective standard in our city code because it's very specific and numerical, we can apply it. So in that way, we can get more affordable housing units out of these projects. But one of the other criteria is that if a project includes more than 10 units, the construction workers must be paid at least the general prevailing rate of per diem wages for the work.
And I'm
And-
just gonna interrupt Fernanda right here. I think this particular clause in the state law will probably be rarely used unless by 100% affordable housing developers that are building with prevailing wage and are trying to apply for various federal and state grants. So prevailing wage can increase costs on a development project north of 40%.
Yes, so this criterion will probably limit a lot of the larger developments from being able to obtain the SB 35 streamlined review. I included the SB 35 review checklist as attachment 2 of this item in the packet. And in order to be eligible for the streamlined review, the projects are required to meet the criteria in that checklist. And if a project is located in the downtown or lighthouse specific plan area, the project would be required to meet the objective standards that are presented to you in the packet. The submissions must also include all required drawings and items in the submittal checklist that is also included in attachment 2. And in order for any SB 35 project to move forward, it first needs to have a Native American tribe consultation initiated by the applicant and city. And so this is a requirement for any SB 35 project before it can move forward. So as I mentioned, staff, with the help of our consultants, converted most of the design guidelines into objective design standards. We could not convert all of them because some were just so subjective that we did not find a way of rewriting the language to make them
Objective.
clear and numerical. So standards such as building height and parking requirements are inherently objective and were unchanged. But and new objective standards were created where there were none, such as for fence and wall heights. Currently there are no fence or wall height requirements in the specific plans. And we can go into each standard if desired, but I just wanted to move forward with the rest of the amendments. One of them is that we wanted to clarify that in the specific plans that VAF zones are governed by the city charter. And that's why they are zoned VAF and not zoned planned community downtown or planned community lighthouse. So we wanted to make that clear in our specific plans. There is, so staff have received some interest in what's called maker spaces. These are described as on-site production of goods with small equipment. And we've received interest in cabinet makers or woodworking, makers with digital printing or 3D printing, which requires small equipment to make. Our makerspace definition that we're proposing would place a limit on the horsepower of the equipment. The limit would be 2 horsepower.
And I just want to jump in here. I actually think this is a really exciting trend we're starting to see, particularly in the lighthouse area. We're starting to see what I would call true artists coming forward and making Lighthouse Avenue into areas where people are creating all sorts of things. It sort of started with the leather shop. And the leather shop includes obviously a heavy retail component, but there's somebody on site pounding the leather and making the purse. We're seeing more and more of that type of creativity. And a lot of those types of applicants call those spaces maker spaces. They see it as spaces where they predominantly create, and then they may have a small retail component. So we were starting to see, if you go drive up and down Lighthouse Avenue, and there's even more applicants that want to do this. So just think about this. I think it's an exciting new trend.
Are you suggesting that we could incent people to create such businesses that would help meet the requirements of SB 35?
So this is one of those other amendments. So the checklist that Fernanda was describing was SB 35 and sort of complying with housing development. In addition to that, we proposed we're like, well, if we're going to be amending the specific plan, there's like 5 or 6 other things that keep coming up. And this is one of them. So we're wanting to create a new use classification called makerspace to streamline the review of these really creative artists and people that are trying to do, create things in small business environments along Lighthouse.
So yeah, it's really exciting for the artists to give them space to do their work. We are being careful though by requiring a use permit, because some of the equipment could, produce more noise than anticipated. And so that's why we put that 2 horsepower maximum. But we also, in a use permit, we have the ability to place conditions or review the floor plan before the project moves forward. And also, we want to keep Lighthouse Avenue as a pedestrian-friendly space. So requiring that the goods be sold on site is a good way of encouraging that pedestrian flow. And massage establishments, so in talking with staff about this, Alvarado Street and the first block of Del Monte and Franklin, there are several uses that are restricted on those locations because those streets are reserved for pedestrian active uses. And putting massage establishments there, it's not an active use that was envisioned. So we wanted to make it clear that massage establishments are prohibited in those locations, just like ground floor offices, personal services, and residential are inappropriate uses for that pedestrian activity area.
And I'll have to say, our staff brought this to my attention. I thought we had already prohibited massage on the first floor of Alvarado, and they went back and showed me, and it didn't quite say that. And so this is a clarification.
Okay.
This is another amendment to require a minimum lot size and width for new subdivisions. So the minimum lot area would be 5,000 square feet, and the width would be minimum 50 feet for new subdivisions, to avoid the creation of unbuildable lots, and to also clarify that this was most likely an inadvertent omission when creating the specific plans. So this would just correct that omission.
Let me ask you, Fernando, the AD, the accessory dwelling units, 5,000 square feet or more, the lot that which they're built?
Oh, accessory dwelling units can be built anywhere with residential, multifamily or single family residential zoning, or any lot that has an existing or proposed single or multifamily dwelling. It doesn't matter the square footage of it.
Okay, thank you.
Fences and walls, like I mentioned, there are no fence or wall standards currently in the plans. The objective standards that are proposed would add fence, wall, and retaining wall height and material requirements to avoid view privacy and living environment impacts and ensure compatibility. Another amendment is streetscape lighting. Our public works staff wanted the plan to be very clear about the difference between street lighting for safety versus decorative lighting for aesthetics. And so in the exhibit to the resolution, or in the resolution itself, actually, there is a map that shows our intersections in downtown and the type of lights, street lights that are in each intersection. And Public Works wanted to take out the contemporary Cobra light because it's inconsistent with safety lighting infrastructure that they're using. And so the amendment would take that out, and that would give Public Works the ability to replace streetlights in kind as well. So we wouldn't be getting rid of any decorative lighting guidelines. We would just be amending the street lighting for safety, just to keep up with the current practices by Public Works. And then earlier this year, there was an amendment to allow residential minor and major uses in both the downtown and lighthouse specific plans. But one of the tables was missing the requirement for a use permit in the Foam Street character area. So this just clarifies that a use permit is needed in that character area. Utility major is a definition in our zoning ordinance that we wanted to add to our specific plans. And so it would be adding that a use permit is needed for water facilities for the purpose of extracting water or injecting water into the underground or storing water for potable water use. And this classification includes water wells or cisterns. So this is just to be consistent with our zoning ordinance. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution establishing these objective standards and the other mentioned amendments. And a resident of New Monterey brought up these typos, and so I wanted to show them to you here. So in the Exhibit B, which is the Lighthouse Objective Design Standards, I think there's just a mistake. It says downtown. It's the very first paragraph, and it should say lighthouse. I think it was just a copy and paste error. And then there's another paragraph in Exhibit B of the Lighthouse Standards that was referring to the downtown specific plan for the landscaping list. And staff is recommending to delete these paragraphs, which again were copied from the Lighthouse plan. Sorry, were copied from the downtown plan and exchanging them for the plant list in the Lighthouse plan. So these are the species that are currently in the Lighthouse specific plan, and staff wants them added to the lighthouse, this objective design standards. So these are for parkland trees and for accent trees. And that concludes staff presentation. I'll be here for any questions, and I invited one of our consultants who helped us prepare the language for these standards. His name is Adam Lindgren, and he's an attorney, and he's very experienced with these type of standards.
I have one question for both Fernanda and for Kim. In the big picture, we are working against the deadline to prevent an individual or a company obtaining a building permit using SB 35 as a reference where there are no standards existing from the city of Monterey. And if that is correct, what is the deadline?
So this law went into effect last January.
So it's already
So
there.
it's taken us, we have probably worked, Fernanda's worked with our outside legal counsel on probably, well, multiple drafts of these documents to
Uh-huh.
bring them into really trying to prove that each standard is objective and not subjective. So it's taken us basically, 10 or 11 months to complete that work. SB 9 is also effective right now. We have one SB 9 application currently submitted, and we have one project that I'm aware of that's interested in SB 35, but it won't be ready for submittal for a few months at least. So I just wanted you to be aware that if a SB 35 project was submitted, we wouldn't, we have very few objective standards in our current plans. And I also wanted, this affects all multifamily development. So what we did is we worked first on where we thought the development would most likely occur, which is in our infill areas, downtown and Lighthouse. After that, we need to do North Fremont. And then the last one was our multifamily housing areas, which are in Lower New Monterey, Oak Grove, Lower Old Town, and also in the Laguna Grande area. So we're moving towards compliance.
So to be efficient and to get this moved forward, I think that there are at least 5 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this room and 2 on Zoom who participated in the development of all 3 specific plans, North Fremont, Lighthouse, and downtown. And these things take a lot of nitpicking and hours to review, but to be efficient, could we not, this is a question, could we not approve these objective design standards and if necessary, modify them later according to field evidence?
Absolutely. This can be a document that can be amended over time, just as you've seen with our specific plans. We keep bringing back amendments. And as well as we're going to be bringing back our 5th ordinance amendment for ADUs for the new state law that goes into effect January 1st and was signed in September. So we are going to, I think this is the new reality as the state is passing so much legislation. We're going to do the best we can and then hopefully get something adopted and then keep refining it if we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Fernanda from nurse?
Actually, I'll ask a question.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Can we make this applicable to the other specific plans as well in the short term and then fix them afterwards?
We will come back with a specific amendment for North Fremont. I think if we are roughly in the right direction on this, then we will pretty quickly move to North Fremont and amend that. We will probably limit those amendments to just SB 35 compliance for a variety of reasons, but I'll get into that at a future time.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, any other questions? Then we will open it to public comment.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Oh, two pages.
I'm Sharon Dwight. And figuring that,
Could we have
Yep.
just a moment to read the paper?
well, I'll be reading through it, and my guess is that there won't be enough time to finish. So you've got it all there. I'll follow the script, so it'll be easy to follow. First of all, I want to thank Fernanda. She spent some time with me answering some questions and helping me focus. Indeed, Sandy's correct. I was one of those who attended every one of the meetings for the Lighthouse Specific Plan, which was more than 40 meetings. I also attended the 2 meetings for the downtown plan. I do want to say that Lighthouse and New Monterey, that area is very different from the downtown. And I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't have time to do the downtown stuff. So my comments are going to be about Lighthouse phone area. I understand what we're trying to accomplish here with the objective design standards, and definitely want to see it happen sooner rather than later. We'd rather have as much of our guidance in it as to have none at all. So that having been said, Lighthouse has a history of being little stores, little family-owned businesses, 1 and 2 story height. We're not like downtown. And I did notice that the standards are shared. I mean, 3/4 of them were verbatim for the 2 plans. Some of the things not mentioned, and I'll hit them fast. Incorporating open space, taking into consideration views. Views are really important in New Monterey. Views are not as important in downtown. Multifamily entrances may be set back so that there can be some landscaping or a plaza or something like that. None of this is mentioned in our shortened version. In summarizing, in revising the policies, we're ending up with statements that are taking us in a direction we didn't want to go anyway. For instance, portions of the building may be set back behind the back of sidewalk for outdoor seating use. As revised, it became a maximum of 50% of the building frontage may be set back from the sidewalk edge only to accommodate a recessed entry, outdoor seating, or landscaping pursuant to the landscaping plan. It changes the meaning of it. The second example I give is guideline 2.4, where we were wanting to encourage, and instead we're saying buildings shall include the following window transparency along the public right of way. And then we've got 50% of the building frontage that has to be windows. And if it's on the second floor, anything above the first floor, 25% of it being window. We're forcing a single style by being so prescriptive. We wanted variety. Oh, we really need.
It's up to the chair.
Well, a couple of things. We'll let you go for a couple more minutes, but the bigger picture is we have coming up on 5:30. And I think we still have 6 people wanting to talk on this.
Two hands raised.
Two hands raised. And then we have our item. Are we just going to continue to run? Okay. I'll give you a couple more minutes. Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the first floor minimum for windows needs to be reduced. We're using the word courtyard, and yet it's changed to you've got to provide a 4-foot bench. They're not the same. I'm concerned that under building mass and scale, it has changed from 12-foot setback, which everyone agreed to now 7-foot setback along Lighthouse. That is not what we agreed to. And I mean, it goes on. There are some unintended consequences here. I really ask that you take it seriously, take a look. I'm not saying we shouldn't have standards, but I think we are creating something that we didn't intend. And if you decide to do it quick and dirty, please count these in as things that need to be fixed, because we're gonna force people to do things that we're not gonna like the look of.
Okay.
And the whole idea was that we were going to have the Monterey look. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for your work on this document. Okay, let's see. Is there someone online that would like to speak?
Yeah, it looks like Joe Keefe. I can go ahead and allow you to speak.
Hello, this is Joe.
Hi, Joe, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Joe Keefe, and I'm an artist in Monterey. I work and teach in Monterey, Pacific Grove, and Pebble Beach. I was very interested in this makerspace qualification, and I read in there that the smallest kiln sizes that could be used would be 8 kilowatts. And I just wanted to bring up very early in this planning that the lowest kiln wattages used in all of the standard electric kilns that are used in Monterey are at least 11.52 kilowatts. So if you're going to write something in, it should start there. And those are small electric kilns that are just about 3 feet tall and 20 inches across. So those are the smallest kilns that can be used. They're 1-phase and 3-phase, and they vary between 210 and 240 volts. So they're really comparable to being plugged in like an electric dryer. Now, there are kilns that can get larger, but in that qualification, kilns don't make noise or anything like that, like a horsepower on a saw would. So I was wondering how the 8 kilowatt limit was found. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There's another hand raised, Alora Daunt. I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Alora Daunt, and I am also here to talk to you guys about the makerspace definition. I run a community collaborative co-working space in downtown Monterey, and a makerspace is in some communities it is also a collaborative space for people who work more with their hands or in creatives, create a creative way. I wanted to come and just show up and be a part of the conversation as far as like how, if we are being intentional about creating these guidelines that will guide how the what types of makers can participate in our community, to just be intentional with it. I also agree with Joe as far as the kiln restrictions. I know that if we're wanting to create a space that small of a kiln, it is hard for someone to actually make the amount of pottery necessary if it was to be something to be sold, to be actually a sustainable business. And also on the horsepower side of things, when I've talked to community members who are woodworkers and work in some of the slightly more industrial handicrafts, that a 2 horsepower saw, for instance, is not enough horsepower to cut really hardwood at all. And so to consider, is horsepower, if you're wanting to, if sound is the concern, is potentially a decibel level metering a more appropriate way of determining what the needs of the community are, as opposed to a limitation on the horsepower of the material in the building. Yeah, just really excited that this trend is happening in our community. myself and my family own a property that we are considering. We are talking to ceramics people who work in the fiber arts about potentially creating a space. We are in early developments and exploration of this project, and just wanted to give the feedback on those particular items. And the other component is that, yes, there is in maker spaces, there's often making and retail, but there's also a community and a teaching environment. I know that many of the makers that I've been talking to, there's been a desire for creating experiential opportunities for people who want to experiment with woodworking or experiment with ceramics, or learning how to sew and make or mend their own clothes, and how we can create spaces for, yes, people who are already in that craft to be able to do their work, but also to invite other people who are interested in exploring those practices and enriching their lives through the act of making. So just want to also add that in some of the applications that you may see coming through, there will also be like a workshop and an aspect of things of inviting people to participate in the act of making as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Erica, is there anyone else raising their hand?
There are currently no other hands raised.
Okay, anyone else from the audience? All right, so we're going to close the public testimony. Bring it back to commissioners for consideration. Mike's comments?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay,
As I read through these documents, I caught myself nodding my head yes, because they were so objective. And some of them were a little confusing. They talked about fences. And I believe we have 4 foot along the front and 6 foot along the side, with some caveat. Those standards, I thought that they were based on safety and safety views. So I didn't understand how that could be subjective. And maybe if I could get an answer how that came about, and if that is objective versus subjective.
Your question is how the proposed fence standards came about?
Correct.
Okay. Let me go to that part. Hold on. Okay, so currently there is nowhere in the city code or the specific plans do we have standards for fence or wall materials. And so if we don't adopt these standards, right now someone with an SB 35 project could build a fence or a wall however tall or however, or with whatever materials they want. So we proposed the materials of glass, prohibited the materials of glass, chain link, barbed wire, electrified, and raw bamboo. And the allowed materials are smooth stucco, brick, masonry or stone, concrete, wood, bamboo planks, adobe, and metal or wrought iron. So that's how we came about with those materials. The maximum fence or wall height is 6 feet, unless an architectural review permit is obtained. We went with 6 feet because it's the lighthouse and downtown areas are commercial, primarily commercial areas, and in other parts of our city, there are maximum fence heights of 6 feet for some of our commercial areas. And so we thought we could be consistent with that height limit. And then
As I recall, there used to be a couple of shops on Lighthouse that had a 3 or 4 foot fence along the face. That
Along
doesn't
the-
address that.
I couldn't hear what you
If you-
said. 4 feet along where?
There used to be a couple of small shops down on Lighthouse that had 3 or 4 foot high fences in the front along the sidewalk. They would no longer, people could go up to 6 foot now and not have to stop at 4.
They could go up to 6 feet, yes. If, for the projects that are seeking a streamlined review.
I would submit that that could become a problem in your environmental design. Because a 6-foot fence, depending upon the material, would make anything behind that fence invisible to the average person. And that was not the intent of when cities put in a limit on the front of property of 3 or 4 foot. And so I'll just throw that back at you to consider. A couple other issues. Reading these plans, one of those submissions regarding prevalent wage goes back to, I believe it was the Brown Act, which was signed by Congress after the Civil War. And I find it odd that we're still stuck with that verbiage, but the intent was to keep wages high and not allow people to give a lower bid. And if it's the state guidelines, I don't know how we can deal with it. It just, I find that a little repugnant. I appreciate in reading this that you made them so objective and removed the subjectiveness of the title. And if all the zones, all the special zones are equal, I would be in favor of that because it sounds like standardization on objective standards is going to be an important issue. And let me also comment that I think this is the state, and I find it repugnant that the state basically says, be quiet and do as we say. This is not the type of government that I would like to have giving us some guidance. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, you didn't have a comment?
Yeah, I'd say going back,
I remember when we went from the old plan to the specific plans, and we were getting rid of objective goals because that would make it better for the planners, better for the architects, better for the community. And here these goofs have changed our whole way of doing business. And for what? I mean, it just doesn't work for me to keep changing stuff like this for no foreseeable reason.
Okay, Stephen has a comment.
yeah, it's obvious that we're under the gun here. And I would suggest that we recommend to the city council that they adopt the suggestions and then we can fine tune them later. But we're already running late. And I think we really need to get this thing done tonight. Later on, we can change it, fine tune it, but not right now. That's just my take.
Okay. Sandy?
I agree with you, but I have not read Sharon's suggestions fully. I wish we had one chance to come back and amend at the next planning commission meeting. I would like a chance to read through the comments, compare them to what has been suggested, because obviously Fernanda and Sharon have put in more work on this than anybody here, and they are highly knowledgeable. And it just seems like we could meet some sort of appropriate deadline by voting next week, but that's just my opinion.
I think I would agree with you on that. This will
I'd go along with that.
This whole thing makes me crazy
It is
Yeah.
pretty.
as an architect. You know, there's just so much that I think we do sitting on planning commission or architect review or historic preservation commission that contributes ultimately to the betterment of the city. And now we're just kind of getting chopped off at the knees, and that just makes me crazy. And I too would like to just have a little more time with it so that we can get it close. But we also have to recognize that we're going to be working on the first implement down, so we get it out in right. So anybody would like to make a motion?
If I can make a comment, further comment. I think that if we move ahead with the down and dirty, then it would give Amanda and Sharon, which I did appreciate her comment, some time to address these issues and make it easier to put the patches on that we feel we need. And the city, and I can feel Kim really pushing for this to be accomplished. So I can go along with that.
When would be the next time?
So as I understood it, we were not going to have a quorum, I believe, on November 22nd, which is Thanksgiving week. So our next available meeting would be to continue this item to December 13th. And that's fine with us if that's what you would like to do.
So we'd move to continue to that until 13th,
Okay, a motion to,
December 13th.
To December 13th.
a motion to continue to December 13th is forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Second it.
Okay. Erica, can we do a roll call vote?
Sure. Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milich,
Yes.
Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes,
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to continue to December 13th, 2022 has been approved with a vote of 5.
Thank you. Okay, on to item number 4, which is consider 2200 Garden Road use permit 22-0207 to allow the collection of a Dish Wireless LLC personal wireless service facility on an existing transition tower. The applicant is Travis Wells, Core Development and Services on behalf of Dish Wireless. The owner is Redwood Gulch LLC, Industrial Zoning District, IR 130 RA ES Industrial General Plan Land Use Designation, and this is exempt from CEQA. Who's going to be our staff report? Kim, are you?
Jerry Hiddleman, our contract planner, will be providing the presentation
very-
online.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello. Hello, Chair and Commissioners. Let me share my screen, please. I have a PowerPoint to go through quickly on this. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
yes,
Okay. So as stated, this is a use permit for the co-location of a Dish Wireless facility on a transmission tower that I think most of you are familiar with. We've had a few projects on this site.
Yeah.
I'll go through this fairly quickly. It's at 2200 Garden Road. Garden Road's up there. It's State Route 68 is down here, and here's where the facilities are. You'll see a transmission tower and a support equipment area. Here's the adjacent buildings. So this is basically what the existing tower looks like. There are some antennas up on the top. Where this microwave dish is, that's where the Dish Wireless antennas are proposing to locate. So they will be proposed to install 6 new panel antennas, 12 new remote radio units. They want to remove that microwave dish you just saw, install support equipment on the ground. And this is an upgrade from a 4G to a 5G facility. The ownership is Redwood Gulch LLC. As stated, Travis Wells of Core Development Services is the applicant. And this is for Dish Wireless LLC. And we're in zoning and general plan designation for industrial on this site. This would qualify as you've heard before, for a 6409 or an eligible facilities request because it's an existing wireless facility and this is not a substantial change in the height or the width of the structure per the FCC definition. We're under a 60-day shot clock. So that shot clock we calculated would end basically at the end of the year, December 28th. So here's the site plan. This is where the transmission tower is, and this is where the support equipment would be. They'll be building one cabinet. As you'll see, 6 antennas in this location, looking at the site. This shows the antenna array in 3 sectors, 2 antennas in each sector. These little boxes behind it are the remote radio units. And this is the transmission tower. This shows the support equipment cabinet. This will be on the ground and it's an enclosed fenced area that's currently existing. Shows the transmission towers from various views. I mean, the transmission tower and the antennas from various elevations. And here's the existing antennas. Those are at a height of 74 feet, 6 inches approximately. And the midsection of this new antenna would be about 55 feet right to here. So it'll be quite a bit below. And then again, the support equipment would be on the ground next to the antennas. So all the views look pretty much the same. They're just putting a number of antennas, some are a little more prominent than others. Here's the photo simulation of the site existing from Garden Road. Here's the existing tower, and you can see the new antennas below, the existing antennas. This is from State Route 68, and it's a little hard to see because of the vegetation, but here's existing and then proposed antennas down in this location again. Same thing from 68. This is a little bit more visible. And again, the new antennas below the existing antennas. We did have the radio frequency study evaluated by a third party and basically concluded that the installation of new antennas greater than 60 feet above ground level, there's no cumulative impact with the existing antennas. The general public exposure limits will not be exceeded at ground level or at any adjacent properties, as I'll show you. And there are no multi-story elevated structures within 200 feet of this tower. So this is an elevation view that we're requiring for all wireless projects at this point. Here's the existing antennas, here's the new antennas, showing the public limit in blue and the occupational and hazardous limits in yellow and red. So the important view is looking at from aerial view. So the RF arrays, radio frequency arrays, would not be going into any buildings or any public spaces. And again, it would be 60 feet off the ground. So we do have some typical RF conditions. Those are post-construction radio frequency report required to show that these drawings are accurate that you're looking at tonight. And that warning signs are required at the transmission tower and support equipment area. This is next to the airport, you might recall. So this project is right here. It's within Zone 7 of the airport influence area. We have added a condition to the resolution that requires review and approval by the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, prior to the issuance of building permits. And that's what you'll see on most projects that come through at this point. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the use permit 220207 for the new Dish Wireless facility with the recommended findings and conditions of approval. And thank you. I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Questions from commissioners?
Looks like Mike is raising his hand.
Okay, I can't see him on my screen.
Commissioner Dawson, sorry.
Jerry, can you minimize or stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Okay, Commissioner Dawson.
Trying to unmute here, but two questions. Are the warning signs in English and Spanish?
That, thank you for the question. I know we had that come up last time. I did some research on that.
Oh, thank
And
you.
they are available in English and Spanish, but I checked all of the OSHA regulations and could not find anything that particularly requires that under OSHA. So I know the city attorney brought that up last time, but maybe that could be a voluntary type requirement. if
Yeah.
necessary.
And number two, the Area Land Use Commission called me and asked why they hadn't been notified about this. They had to look it up for some reason. It would be really good for them to get a heads up every time we did something like that, so we have no ugly surprises.
Mike, was that the commission or the district?
The district.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can
Yeah.
certainly do
Mike,
that.
I have a question.
Mike Brassfield, go ahead, please.
I remember discussion back in the subcommittee about what 6409A actually applied to. When I counted it, is this a remodel or is it a new project? They, according to my calculations, added 30 new pieces of equipment and only removed one. And this is going from 4G to 5G. How do we sort through this to understand if it's a new project or just a 6409? We just accept their suggestion that it is?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Brassfield. 6409 would also apply to projects that co-locate on an existing facility. So we want to promote that so we don't have a proliferation of different towers all over the area. And this one is going on an existing tower or base station was what the FCC calls that. And you cannot increase the height by 10% or 10 feet. And they're going below the existing antennas, and you cannot increase the width by 20 feet or more. And they are not doing that. They are staying within the existing width of those antennas that you saw. So yeah, even new co-located projects would qualify under 6409.
Okay. And that'll do for now.
Okay. No. Sandy, question?
I don't have any questions on this one, but I understand that the airport commission or district does need to be notified, so.
Okay, no further questions. We'll open it up for public testimony. Do we have?
I see 4 attendees. There are no hands raised.
Okay,
I can go ahead and remind the public how to
yeah,
join.
let's do that. And then if we don't,
Once again, to join the meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone number to the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-990-8039. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. And there are still no hands raised.
okay, I will close the public testimony. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry, we're gonna hear from,
If the applicant, does the applicant want to speak? I know they're online, but.
They're online, their hand isn't raised,
okay,
Okay. Thank
but
you.
now it's raised.
now it's raised. Okay, well.
Go ahead and ask them to
let's speak
unmute.
with the applicant.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Travis Wells. I represent Dish on this project. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your evening to review this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Commissioners, are there any questions for Travis Wells? Thank you, Travis. It doesn't look like there's any questions. So I think we'll just close our public testimony and bring it back to commissioners for consideration.
I'll bring up one other issue.
No, move it. I mean, we have to anyway, so might as well get it done.
Okay. We have a motion for approval.
Actually, I did have a discussion issue.
Okay.
Going back again to the subcommittee and then all through these other hearings, I believe in our ordinance, it requires that all equipment be named by model and make. Isn't that correct?
Not the current checklist. The proposed ordinance includes that. As well as the proposed ordinance includes notification of the airport district. So those are, I'm hoping when our ordinance gets reviewed in January, late February, that information will be included.
Okay, so right now listing generic or unknown as far as equipment is appropriate.
Well, they're specifying all the types of equipment in RRU unit. They're providing the dimensions of that unit. The exact model number, the consultants don't always provide that that's whatever number that they, obviously all the equipment is specific to that specific company. It's not like they're sharing equipment. So we do not have model numbers yet.
Yeah, but I understand, but when you list generic or unknown, and that goes back to procurement. If you're procuring equipment, typically someone's paying for a certain piece of equipment by make and model. And if they're just listing some piece of equipment as an unknown or generic, that goes the intent of what the discussion was all about. That would, because if you're procuring 100 units, we hear recalls of equipment all the time, particularly automobiles, which are very mechanical. And so if we're all of a sudden, no one is listing the name or unknown, then they're not doing their due diligence on the submission of the project. I just throw that out as a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You wanted to?
Yes, define it. Do we grant the use permit?
A hand went up. I don't.
22 UP 220207. Location for Dish Wireless LLC, personal wireless service facility on an existing transmission tower at 2200 Garden Road.
Okay, we have our motion. Do we have a second? There we go. Mike Dawson has the second. Further discussion before we take a vote? Erica, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Chair Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milich,
Yes.
Commissioner Brassfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Mike, you're muted.
Commissioner Dawson,
He's gonna, there he is.
Yes.
and Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries a vote of 5. That decision is appealable within 3 days to the City Council. We have applications in our planning office and online.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioner,
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
thanks, Jerry. Commissioner comments?
I have a question of Kim.
Okay.
You know, since every single one of us have been through the arduous process of these specific plans and the lengthy time it takes to go through all of the this and that, this amendment here to establish these standards is only 14. And I mean, we can't require it, but don't you think it would be a good idea if the commissioners wrote their comments, their amendments, additions down, and gave Fernanda a chance to revise based on that? put your comments in writing ahead of the meeting.
That's up to the commission if you'd like to do that. It would be accepted as public comment and it would be posted as a public comment.
Right. As long as we didn't send them to each other.
You cannot send them to each other and I can't share them with you. But what I can do is, as any public comment, put it on the city website as a public comment received.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, informational reports and staff comments.
So we will be canceling the November 22nd meeting. And then we're going to end with a bang on December 13th because December 27th will also be canceled.
Okay.
We will have SB 35. I think I'll put that in the 7 o'clock session. We will been working with our attorneys and updating our ADU ordinance again. Based on the new state law that was just adopted, we'll put that in the evening agenda as well. In the afternoon, we will have a brief presentation by our general plan consultant who's working on our housing element. Just so you guys can start to get your feet wet. We're going to be, we have to adopt that housing element by, or submit it to the state and completely adopted and approved by December 31st, 2023. So we'll be working as a commission a lot on that plan. We also have a subdivision and a variance in the afternoon, so it'll be a busy meeting.
My only other comment is happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy your turkey.
With that, meeting adjourned.
Kim, what's the city participation in League of California Cities now?
Maybe, Mike, I can call you tomorrow so we can just have that conversation without the other commissioners. Since we adjourned.
Okay, I was just going to ask if we could participate. That's why I was asking.